welcome to my channel and my voice reveal. Yes, this is my voice. Not the best audio quality as of yet, apologies in advance, but guess it's a good thing I don't have much of a following as of now. But shit still needs to get done, and mama there raised no bitch. So, in dedication to Valentine's Day, today we are drawing Cupid. I was supposed to upload this on Valentine's Day, but I was having trouble recording my voice. But I'm here now. Disclaimer, I am not an expert on love. This is just a few info I gathered along with my own personal take and some other people's take on it. So, here we go. So, to begin with, what exactly is Eros? Eros is one of the main types of love, including storge, which is love amongst your family, philia, which is love amongst your friends, philotia, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, which is self-love. Personally, I think it's the most important type of love. Agape, which is love amongst your fellow human beings in general. And lastly, Eros, which is the romantic kind of love. So now that we get the gist of what Eros is, who is Eros? In another version, it is said that Eros is part of a type of winged beings called Erotes, and he also had a brother called Anteros, which coexist together. Anteros represents acquitted love, like returned love. So Eros, he makes you fall into love, and Erotes makes you return that love. So, if you're only struck by Eros, not by Erotes, then you're shit out of luck. And in other versions, he's represented as a cute, chubby little blind baby child. And this version, I would say, represent the whole term of love is blind. So Eros' redesign from him being portrayed as a sexy mofo to a flying baby likely took place when Greece was conquered by the Romans. And since Romans at the time were very Catholic, they probably didn't approve of this lustful portrayal of the god of love. So they changed his image to what's commonly known as today, which is the flying baby child, Cupid, that we all know and love, for the sake of purifying the whole concept of love, to make him look more innocent, the way that Jesus would approve. But I'm not exactly a fan of this idea because you don't just change something that isn't broken. This change basically hides all the layers of complexity behind the whole concept of love and Eros, because love isn't always pure. It's not always innocent. And personally, I don't think it should be presented as a baby. Sure, love sometimes makes babies, I guess, but it's just a bit weird to resemble romance and attraction with a baby, especially if you combine the whole sex thing, even though that might be the end goal sometimes, but I still think it's a bit weird. I think the OG Eros is a more appropriate representation, the Greek version, which is why I chose this version to draw for the speed paint. Totally not because I like to draw hot anime guys. Hot anime guys aside, let's get into Eros' infamous hijinks and why he is considered as one of the most powerful beings that even the gods fear. One of his stories depicts on the bare definition of love yourself. Of course, Narcissus, who basically coined the term narcissist. So basically, he's this pretty boy that thought so highly of himself that no one is worthy of him. His ego was so high to the point he believed that he was immune from Eros' arrows. Eros was not pleased with this. One of the poor souls that liked him was this guy called Amanius. So, after bravely confessing his love, the not so impressed Narcissus responded with history's most brutal rejection by not only saying he's unworthy of him, but also literally giving him a sword to imply that he might as well put himself out of his misery, which he did in front of his doorstep. And to be fair, so would I if that happened to me. But before he did so, he called on to Eros just before his death to avenge him, considering that technically this whole mess was probably his doing. There was another poor soul that, like Narcissus, a nymph called Echo, but she was the biggest blabbermouth ever. The type of person you shouldn't trust with your beans, cause surely she'd spill it. So she was the one who distracted Hera while Zeus went round cheating on her. Of course, guided by Eros. So, not being impressed by this, Hera took away her ability to speak and only be able to repeat what she hears. Kind of like an echo! I don't know why she didn't punish Eros as well. She was probably scared by him too. So, since she can only repeat what she hears, she can't actually tell Narcissus how she feels. Not like it matters anyway, because he also harshly rejected her too. At this point, Eros is getting pretty sick of Narcissus thinking he's hotter than Eros's arrows, and that loving yourself is the best type of love, which to be fair is a positive message to have. Love yourself, y'all. But this was not the case for Eros. And of course, Eros punishes him for this. He was like, "You can love yourself even more, mofo," and threw a golden arrow at Narcissus as he looked at his own reflection on a river, and instantly fell in love with himself like he never did before. But every time he reaches to his reflection, it disappears. Now Narcissus can never have what he wants most, because how can you be with who you want if who you want is you? That didn't make any sense. But mythology logic says this was enough to die off. So that's what he did. He died. The end. And leaving the Narcissus flower behind. So everybody died. And you know what? At this point, you might as well give Eros a spoon, because he sure likes to stir things up. So, of course, the love of God has his own love story. So, Psyche was this very lonely princess, said to be more beautiful than Aphrodite herself, to the point that people worshipped her instead. Of course, this made Aphrodite very jealous, so in retaliation, she planned to make her suffer by planning to make her fall in love with this terrible monster, quote unquote. So, to do this, she sent her son, ya boy, Eros, to strike her with a golden arrow. And being the mama's boy that he is, went off on this mission. And like the true professional that he is, he accidentally pricked himself with one of his golden arrows as he laid his eyes upon Psyche, and instantly fell in love with her. I guess not even Eros is immune to arrows. But Psyche was still very, very lonely, having everyone around her think she's so beautiful that she's too out of reach for them. So she went to the Oracle of Delphi to find love, where they told her she's destined to be with this terrifying monster that even the gods fear, one that finds pleasure in inflicting pain everywhere he goes. Yes, that's our boy, alright. So she was led to a cliff of all places where she had this marriage-style send-off. But it was more like a funeral, because they were basically sacrificing her to this monster. But she was so lonely that she was down with the plan anyway, and she got picked up by Zephyrus, the west wind, to live with Eros in his luxurious home. But for some reason, he and all the servants are invisible, so she can't see anyone. So in a way, she was still lonely, but she can still at least interact with others, I suppose. And to her surprise, she was actually having a good time, living in luxurious conditions, and being with this quote unquote her husband of a monster that was actually really nice towards her. One day, she invited her sisters over, and after seeing her luxurious living conditions, they got jealous of this and planned to sabotage this by convincing her to see her husband against his wishes and kill him before it kills her. So that night, she finds out who he is and accidentally pricks herself with his golden arrows. And when he was asleep, he wasn't invisible. So once she sees him, she instantly fell in love with him. Like, oh, he's not a terrifying monster. He's actually this sexy son of a gun. Of course. But she accidentally spilled the candle wax on him, which wakes him up. So he sees her with a knife and everything, about to kill him. Eros was not happy with this. Like, after giving her everything, a luxurious house and everything she could have ever wanted, yet she attempted to kill him even though it was her sister's idea. He was not happy about this, so he fled back to his mama and essentially fucked off. But she still wants him back. So she goes to Aphrodite, who still wants her to suffer, offers to quote unquote help her by making her do some impossible task, which is known as the 4 labors of Psyche. One, she has to sort out a big pile of grains into their proper groups, all in one day. So it's like separating a massive pile of salt and peppers, which is obviously impossible. But luckily for her, there were some ants who felt sorry for her and decides to help her. So she managed to get that done. Woohoo! And her next task was to collect the golden fleece from the sun sheep, but would kill her if she gets too close. So at this point, she gets so fed up and very suicidal about her entire situation. So a nearby river spirit decides to help her by saying, hey, you know what? You can just get him from the bushes nearby that falls off the sheep naturally. So that's what she did. She collected the little pieces of golden wool from the golden sheep and brings it back to Aphrodite. But it takes more than that to impress your mother-in-law. So next she makes her go get some water from the river Styx. Another impossible task if it weren't for this impossible to climb mountain. But luckily for her, she gets the help from Zeus himself, who sends an eagle down to give her a ride across the mountain. So she separated the seeds, got the wool, got the water, which would have all been simple today, just going to the shops. She has one final task to get her hubby back. So all she has to do is to go to the underworld and collect a box of Persephone's beauty and give it to Aphrodite to replenish her like she needs it. So at this point, Eros is completely over the whole my wife tried to kill me thing. So he wants his waifu back, but she was already on her way to the underworld, and she got the box, got Persephone's beauty, and she is on her way back. But big fat but she saw the state she was in, being really tired after doing all these tasks. She didn't look cute. So she thought, ooh, maybe if I get a little bit of that beauty to myself. So clearly she hasn't learned from Pandora. She opened the box to get some of that booty. Get some of that beauty. But it backfired on her and ended up killing her instead. So now she is a mess and she's dead. Then he caught up to her, only to witness the death of his beloved. Oh, the tragedy! This is his punishment for all the times he ruined people's lives and even killing some people in the process with the power of love. Now he faces his own demise, losing the love of his life the way he did to so many others. He learns his lesson and has to live with the grief. That is the tragedy of Eros. Nah! Eros comes to her and brings her back to life and using one of his golden arrows, because apparently he can bring people back to life using his golden arrows because he's OP like that. Because he's OP like that. And then he takes her back to Olympus, gives her some ambrosia to make her a goddess, and they live happily ever after. And they get married. He gives her some ambrosia. She turns into a goddess, even having a little baby girl. Yes, it's a classic Disney happily ever after. But you'd think after all the trouble he caused everybody, he not only gets away scot-free, but become one of the very few characters in Greek mythology to have a Disney happy ending. Guess Karma is scared of him too. There was this other god that decided to test Eros. Needless to say, it didn't go so well for him. So Apollo was another god who also uses archery. And one day, I think they were target practicing together or something. Apollo claimed that he was a far better archer than Eros. So in retaliation to this, he shot Apollo with a golden arrow to make him fall in love with this nymph called Daphne, and shot her with a lead arrow to make her hate him. So after this, he tried all sorts of advancements to woo her. Which didn't work and in fact really annoyed her. So she went as far as going to her father, the river god Penis. No, not penis. Yeah, don't laugh. We all came from penises. Anyway, so her father helped her from Apollo by turning her into a tree. Of all things, at least she got away, I suppose. Can you imagine that? Your crush hating you so much that they'd rather turn into a tree than be with you. So, yeah, don't mess with Eros. Moral of the story. So now that we're more familiar with Eros himself, I decided to dive in deeper into how he affects us personally. Cause, of course, he still does. Yes, that includes me, you, your mama, anyone unless you're a plant, etc. His influence runs deep, specifically in a psychological level. Depending on who you're talking to, love can either help people live longer or send them to an early grave. But basically, love is an addiction, similar to substance abuse, drug addiction, any sorts of addiction, because it takes place in your brain, in the same area where dopamine is regulated. Bear in mind, I'm still no expert, so... but this is the general gist. So this means you can get addicted to that love rush, which might not be a good thing all the time. So this might literally be what it means to be quote-unquote shot by Eros' golden arrow. Love can also dull the pain and make you feel pain that isn't there. Fun fact, your heart literally have these weird fleshy strings that tightens and loosens, which is basically the feeling you get when the feels hit. And this is the only thing I remember from high school science class. To add insult to injury, love is irrational because it stimulates the hormones in the hormones in the brain, which interrupts your normal way of thinking. So it literally hacks your cognitive function to make you think about the sunshines and rainbows instead of analyzing what's actually going on, which sounds crazy, but if you've ever liked someone, Did you think it through? Did you do anything stupid because of it? So yeah, it can drive us crazy, distract us, and stress us out in the most beautiful ways. But love is irrational. It's an emotion, just like pain, anxiety, etc. It is heavily influenced by the environment or eros, whichever you believe in. And basically, you hardly get a choice in it or what happens. Fun. It's hypothesized that the concept of love is an evolutionary survival mechanism to make us want to produce more and make babies and prolong this disease of a human race. And maybe, just maybe, that is what Eros is trying to do, to destroy the planet by keeping us humans here. So maybe the ancient Greeks were trying to understand what they were feeling when they fall in love. And without the knowledge we have now, they came up with the character of Eros. But bottom of the line, fuck our brains and fuck you, Eros. To share this mindfuckery I tricked myself into, I dive deeper into the question, what is love? So I went around asking what other people's take on it was and what love means to them. One of my friends added that it's something that everybody needs and a lot of people want. But initially, it's shitty. Couldn't agree with you more. It's shitty, dangerous, and one of the strongest emotions we can feel. So we have to be careful with how we deal with it and how others implement it towards us. So specifically, she's referring to the love mania, which is obsessive love or psychotic or tsundere kind of love, which you have to be very careful of. Oh, I'm worried for her. Anyway, someone else said that it's about giving love and respect to a particular person and receiving love and respect in equal dosage, whilst others said it's about balancing compromise and understanding, and that compatibility is built on love rather than a requirement, which is hard because our surroundings change us to be able to adapt to others rather than focus on knowing what's best for us individually. She also points out how online dating creates a paradox of choice, meaning given too many options based on exaggerated positive traits and always looking for the next big thing which doesn't exist, rather than how to last in the long run, creates commitment issues. Not to mention social media and couple culture creates unrealistic standards on relationships. Basically, in modern days, where we're more connected than ever, we're as advanced as never before, it makes it appear like we have a lot of choices, when in reality, it actually makes it harder than it ever was to find love, because as technology increased, so did our expectations. And advice from one of the wisest friends I have was the best way to handle Cupid's arrow is to be as rational as you can about it, stating that staying calm and not to act too emotionally is the best way about it, which is easier said than done. Meaning take it slow and think through the emotions carefully rather than acting on impulse. Due to how difficult this is, there is no such thing as rational love, especially when your brain is spazzing out like a cat in heat. Love is just hormones, and as my friend perfectly puts it, love is just biological fairy dust that encourages us to mate and keep the species going. Oh, like I said before. Oh dear. So, due to modern times where everyone turned masochistic for the rush of dope injected from Cupid's golden-tipped arrows, he knows this. He knows the chemistry is happening in your brain rather than in the romance. So at the end of the day, you don't decide whether or not you want to be in love with a certain person or not. So after all this, what's my take on Eros after looking it all up? So, the real tea. I find it interesting how love can be used as a weapon back then, and has it really changed all that much to now? Cause nothing hurts the way Eros' arrows does. Either you're McHaten or McLovin. It messes up your head way too much, and that dopamine rush makes it feel like it's the key to happiness. Humans crave that feeling when you're strucketh by the golden bow, like the masochists they are. To me, it's still just a concept that we invented to justify baby making. So it's still a lot of BS to me. Trouble is, most people seek love to fill a void or to feel validated, which this void we can just easily fill out ourselves. But it just takes a little time and effort. Okay, a lot of time and effort. But it's the same with loving another. We don't need to put all our time and energy waiting to be saved by somebody else. How do we expect someone else to make us feel like we're worth something if all that relies on someone giving us permission to feel that? Especially in modern times where it's all about quantity over quality, based on unrealistic relationship expectations that the media sells us. People become numbers or options. Don't get me wrong, if you're someone who go for peeps that feel the same, then good on you. The more power to you. It's your choice. That's okay too. You do you, boo. Just don't go out there using love as means to hurt others. I've witnessed all this bullshittery way too much with the people around me, and with this in mind, how far can we blame Eros? People look for love without knowing what they're looking for, looking without knowing what they need as an individual, but rather based on what society expects of them. We forget that it's a choice. People are only in it for the love, for the sunshines and rainbows, rather than the hard work and commitment it needs. But you have to be in it for the right reasons, and know what those right reasons for you are, and be in the right mindset. Get to know yourself. I haven't heard of a modern case where someone died of too much self-love the way that Narcissus did. So what's stopping you from loving yourself? And heck, if someone comes by confessing their love to you, don't give them a sword and tell them to kill themselves. Either say yes or say that you're not looking for love. That's okay too. This went way deeper than I originally planned. So sorry for the long vid, but yeah, that's about it. Thanks for making it this far if you did. Remember that I am no expert. I'm simply talking out of my ass along with some amateur research and some wise words from my friends. So take what I say with a grain of salt. Whether you believe in love or not, whether Eros is a chubby flying baby or a sexy flying anime dude, find your own meaning, because it differs with everybody. At the moment, my main take is the moral of the story is love yourself. Don't piss off Eros, she says while making an entire video devalidating him. If you're real, don't hurt me. Find your own meaning, because it's different with everybody. Love hurts. So yeah, I hope you enjoy the speed paint. Sorry if the audio is lacking in quality. This is my first voiceover. I don't think this is gonna reach a lot of people, so thank fuck for that. And hopefully there will be more of this to come. Anyway, I'll see y'all later. Ciao!